Hi, my name is ScienceBeard, and I've been picked up by some people who watched my Peter Hitchens commentary and told to do my research better. So I am doing that. And I will focus on just a couple of things, not on the whole thing, and I will do them properly. So thanks for the advice. Oh, and I might also permanently ditch the creepy avatar. Again, thanks for the heads up with that. I don't do this for views. You may have noticed that I don't say, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. But I can't deny that there is a motivational aspect in seeing some numbers greater than zero. So I might do this. Hell's Hitchens on a weekly basis because it is fun. And I like the comments, negative or positive. The lack of views on my channel is primarily due to the fact that I'm a terrible YouTuber. I'm not on Facebook, Twitter, or elsewhere advertising my wares, but I'm making videos because I enjoy writing scripts and generally making videos. I'm surprised that I have any subscribers, but also in awe of those people who do subscribe because other people can see who you subscribe to, and you're not afraid to subscribe to a channel with almost new views. Anyway, on to my possibly regular program, Episode 1, Hell's Hitchens. I'm not going to engage with any hyperbole or hasty generalizations. Again, I am aware that this is an opinion. This does not mean he can be absolved of shoddy thinking or intellectual dishonesty. I will look at some of his claims and investigate their veracity and internal logic. So here we go. He writes,
My guess is that about 85% of the population now worship it and will continue to do so. The rest of us are, as each day goes by, a persecuted minority forced to go along with beliefs we do not hold.
This is not a claim, but I will briefly comment. Welcome to the club, Peter. Brexit is something 48% of the voting population did not want, and yet Remainers are blamed for Brexit not happening. Carry on.
This is why I make such a fuss about the demand to make us all wear muzzles. This is not about health. There's simply not enough evidence to compel us to do so. It is an attempt to force submission on COVID unbelievers. That is why it spreads, despite the absence of any good case for it. In a creepy development, one of the most powerful scientific papers arguing against it, Why Face Masks Don't Work, a revealing review, last week suddenly vanished from its usual place on the internet. I still have a copy.
Peter Hitchens claims that wearing a face mask does not stop the spread of the virus. On the face of it, pun intended, you would have to have a think and say to yourself, what is the stereotypical image of a surgeon performing surgery? Is it not a face mask over the mouth and nose? Why do they do that? Then it should have occurred to Peter that face masks are not intended to prevent you from getting infected, but they are there to prevent you coughing, sneezing, spluttering, and spitting the virus, among other pathogens, onto other people. People, when they talk, spit out droplets of saliva, especially when they sing or shout, but also when you sneeze or cough. That is how colds and the flu is spread. But Peter is immune to this kind of thinking. Unless it is doing something for me, why do it? So I expect his gets coughing into your elbow, or catch it, bin it, kill it, or washing his hands as an imposition on his lifestyle. But fair enough, so you don't think you should cover your face for other people. Let's think about it a different way. What if the face coverings give a kind of placebo effect, confidence boost to those who are afraid to go out? Would that be so bad? Also, social distancing has been shown to slow the spread, and a face covering might be used as an external sign to negotiate how people interact, to greet each other or simply approach each other. Why is this bad? I've been squeezed past and pushed and made to feel uncomfortable by people invading my personal space. I'm not a fan of that. A mask could signal that we are finally taking a more civilized approach. Don't assume you can get into somebody's face and shout at them when you feel that they have wronged you somehow by existing. Okay, don't like that either because you want to impose yourself on other people and assert your alphaness? What about motorcycle helmets? Sure, you have to take them off for ID purposes in shops to prevent you from committing crimes, because that's what will lead to crime, wearing a helmet. Nevertheless, not wearing a helmet is antisocial on a motorbike. How? Well, you protect yourself, but you also reduce the potential for death and major head trauma, either of which has a negative effect on your family and society. So, should we rage against helmets now as well? So, how does he justify this apparent cognitive dissonance? Well, he cites a powerful scientific article which apparently then vanished. He doesn't know why, but suspects he knows. It's the priesthood of mask wearers. Yes, probably BLM, Antifa, and leftists. Who knows? It is funny how he homes in on one article that questions mask wearing, but then claims it was hidden by some dark powers without doing any more research. So let's have a look at what has likely happened. Firstly, Googling the title led me here. It is a website which carries a load of magazines for professionals. They are not peer-reviewed scientific journals, but let's assume that the article quotes a scientific review which has now disappeared. There's a bit which survived on this web page. And indeed, the article speaks of face masks not protecting the patient or surgeon from infectious diseases. Damning. So Peter is right? Well, it does not say what face masks were studied. It was also done on face masks between 2004 and 2016, and the N95 face mask was developed in 1995, although unlike COVID-19, the 95 does not reference the year, but the idea that it filters 95% of particulates for the wearer. It is still the de facto standard, so Peter is right then. Well, not so fast. Mask wearing, even in 1995, did not mean that you can inhale the breath of somebody infected and not get infected. And his source talks precisely of dentists and surgeons where social distancing cannot be observed. What the masks are designed to do is indeed akin to a seatbelt. You reduce your chances of getting infected by a little, but you prevent infection of others with a certain probability. Seatbelts reduce your chances of dying from a road traffic accident, but seatbelts don't mean you're invulnerable, and no such claim is made. The masks are there to protect other people. Don't believe me? Good, because I've published evidence from the International Journal of Nursing Studies, info in the description. So what might have happened to it other than a convoluted leftist social justice warrior type conspiracy? Well, sometimes this happens. A hastily peer-reviewed article is found lacking post-peer review, but as science is self-correcting, it can be retracted. This can happen for many reasons. For example, the methodology is found lacking, or there's an error in the maths. Sometimes it can simply be fraud or intellectual dishonesty. At the moment, there's a rush to publish all sorts of research on COVID-19 and adjacent subjects, and therefore there is a higher than normal rate of retractions or corrections. Some subjects are more prone to this than others, for example, medical studies. And as regrettable as retractions are, there is an ongoing debate over how safe peer reviews are and what can be done to improve on this process. And before somebody cries cherry picking, I will include an example of a pro-face mask wearing study as well, although it should be pointed out that it hasn't been retracted. Critics point to an overly certain language and the author agrees and apologized. However, nobody here doubts that face masks should be worn, simply because there might be a benefit and it doesn't take that much effort. If it turns out it was pointless, then people haven't lost that much. And even Peter knows that he's making a fuss, because he says so in his column. On the other hand, if it turns out that it has slowed down the spread of the virus, it will have been worth it, and it may reap benefits for seasonal influenza and other diseases. I will be short on this one. Unions want schools to stay shut. And he says,
this must make plans to reopen schools in September even less likely to come true. Does the government think the education unions won't notice this panic-driven act and use it to keep the schools shut? Of course they will.
Matt Hancock blamed unions for not sufficiently supporting the government in opening schools and said that he expects schools to open. The DailMail itself reported on the 10th of July that unions were insisting on a test and trace system for schools. So what is the problem? Government insists theirs is up and running. And it should be obvious. Countries who are doing well test and trace. Unions cannot tell teachers to stay at home until they have a strike mandate, in which case teachers don't get paid. If they stay away, they are in breach of contract. Good luck replacing teachers in a time of a national shortage of staff. See my video on that. The DfE guidelines, see my video on that, say that schools need to install sanitizer stations, clean toilets every time a student who is unwell goes to visit one, and many other essential strategies, and that they won't get any additional money to do it. Schools should also stagger the day, but not at the cost of teaching time. They should not allow students from different bubbles to mix, while at the same time end lessons still at the same time, because you're not allowed to stagger times during the day, because that would impinge on teaching time. There are many other impractical and impossible demands placed on schools, such as to identify asymptomatic children, and of course, all of this based on the assumptions that teachers themselves are somehow immune to coronavirus. And this is what Peter clearly thinks as well. Don't cover your face while on public transport. Ever. According to Peter, no matter that it might help or boost confidence, but open the schools despite the fact that 9 out of 10 parents are not happy about sending their kids to school, which is also reported in the same DailMail article from the 10th of June. And it is not like the science around herd immunity or how coronavirus really affects young people is settled yet either. Sources in the description. If you briefly think through what that means, you can see that it is not safe for anyone yet. But it is the white male upper-class privilege of Peter, where you don't have to worry about supplying evidence. Just assert. The most worrying aspect of all of this for me is that Peter behaves like a conspiracist. Conspiracies are anti-science. Apply Occam's razor to them, and the moon landings, flat earth, anti-vaxxer, and many more conspiracies fall at the first hurdle. Why did Peter's favorite study disappear? Check Retractions. It is likely you will find it there. Check out whether you haven't been taken in by your confirmation bias. This, by the way, is why I quote the Sun and the DailMail. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this as much as I did making it. Sources in the description. Maybe see you in episode 2. Bye.